The Sims is a game that throughout the years has built a lot of lore for their players, especially through their families and pre-made households. Now, a bunch of these return in later installments like The Sims 2, 3 and 4, and then further expand upon the family history, but a couple of them were created in The Sims 1 and then never featured again. We all know the Goths and the land grabs, but in this video I'd like to highlight the families that got shortchanged and only appeared in The Sims 1, but were, in my opinion, as iconic, if not more iconic, than the most famous ones that we know. Let's start off with the only Sims base game household that never reappeared in any of the later installments, the Roomies household. This one consists of Chris and Melissa Roomies, alleged friends. I say alleged because me and a lot of other people, if you Google their names, always made these two lovers. They start off in the family bin and you can place them in any house that you want. They have personality points but no skills, no jobs, so they're really just a blank slate to start with whatever you want. In the Japanese release of this game, the two get a bit of a makeover. For Chris, it's really only her hair that changes, but for Melissa, the impact is a little bigger. Her skin tone has changed and essentially the only dark-skinned Sim is removed from the base game. And then there's a bit of speculation that for the Sims H&M fashion stuff pack in the trailer, the two main characters featured are actually Chris and Melissa Roomies. However, this has never been confirmed. Moving on to The Sims Living Large, there was only one family ship with The Sims Living Large. My favorite family of all time, it's the Meshuggahs. I've talked extensively about these two in my Living Large review as well as my house ranking video that I did earlier, but I'm gonna do it again because they deserve it. Sylvia Marie and Frankie Meshuggah live in the pink octagonal house that is decorated in this tacky, garish, colourful style with flamingos in the yard and a large pool, and this is peak Sims 1 for me. Sylvia Marie is employed in the paranormal career and is actually the only Sim in all iterations of the game to work in the paranormal career, which is my favorite career ever. She's a psychic phone friend, but if you work a little bit and she gets to the top of the career, she's a cult leader, and this is exactly how I see Sylvia Marie, as this charlatan type figure. It's fantastic. Keep in mind that Sylvia Marie is the psychic phone friend because it will be relevant later on when we talk about a different family. Her husband Frankie, on the other end, is overweight, laid back, but he's in the extreme career, and I kind of love this juxtaposition of this guy. Personally, I always change his job to the music career because I kind of envision him as a sleazy record label producer, and it really fits the sort of vibe of the house they have, I think. Interestingly, despite both of them being at the beginning of their career and the house not being so big, their furniture is quite expensive, so it kind of raises the question as to how they got into all of this money, which I'll get back to later again when we talk about the psychic phone friend thing. Honestly, according to me, it's a crime against humanity that these never returned in any of the later installments. I think they are such memorable, iconic characters that could really be one of the staple families of this franchise. Then into The Sims Unleashed, the only other expansion pack to introduce new families. We start with Claire Charming and her dog Luna. I briefly talked about her in my Unleashed review, and I will be brief again now. I'm kind of bored by her. She's a nurse, she likes live music, and that's kind of it. I'm going to move on because I'm already bored. On the other end of the spectrum, a family that I extensively talked about in my Unleashed review that I will keep talking about again, it's the Hick family. For those of you who missed it, it's Mama Hick with her son Eldon. They live in a trailer home with their 3 dogs, and Mama's bio tells us that she used to be a very successful Miss SimCity until she lost all of her money to a psychic phone friend. And though it's never been officially confirmed, I'm 100% convinced that Sylvia Marie is the psychic phone friend that scammed Mama Hick out of her money, now funding her perfectly pink octagonal house. Full stop. I always imagined that she had her son Eldon as a teenager and that kind of like made their situation a bit more difficult. I love that she walks around in a robe and a bonnet with her hair up in curlers. Just the entire vibe of this family works for me. Now that we've discussed these 4 families, we've touched upon all of the families that were delivered in the base game and the expansion packs that never returned. However, what many people may not know is that when The Sims came out, they actually released a number of downloadable families on their website that you could download yourself and place into your game. These were created by Maximus, so in my mind, these are definitely part of the base lore of The Sims, and none of these ever returned, which If you ask me, it's such a big mistake. The first ones of these families is the Snooty Patootie family, Chip and Buffy Snooty Patootie, and their name is quite fitting because they are quite snooty. Buffy is a bridge player. They both clearly come from old money but don't really want to work, so they just kind of live off of their trust funds, but they look down on other people. In my head, Buffy's about 45, 50, and maybe Chip is her younger boy toy, and this theory is kind of fueled by, if you've played The Sims House Party, there is actually a exotic dancer that pops out of a cake who is named Chip and has the same faceplate as Chip Snooty Patootie, and in my mind these are definitely the same people. It's definitely Chip who has a side job as an exotic dancer. That's just the lore for me. The next up is a bit of a special household. It's really one that's out of the box. It's called the Agent household. They live in a big white house, which I'm sure is supposed to be the actual White House because it even includes the Oval Office. And all of the Sims have a last name Agent, and then the first name is CIA or TSA or Intern Agent. So these are all agents living there together. The house is filled with camp-birds and radio equipment, so it's clearly that they're doing some sort of surveillance thing of the neighborhood. I didn't play much with these as a kid, but I do want to make a note that the CIA agent, their career is crime lord, which I think is very funny. Then the most boring family of the bunch is the Jones family, Edward, Barbara, and their son Bobby Jones. They're just an all-American little family. I think it has something to do with keeping up with the Joneses, but these are not very interesting to me. The Valentinos, however, Rudy and Julia Valentino, are a family that I used to play a lot with. They come in this nice house. This is my default family to play The Sims Hot Date with, and I actually use them a lot in my retro review. And these two have this young and in love kind of vibe, and it's helped by the fact that Rudy Valentino is definitely based on the Hollywood sex symbol of Rodolfo Valentino. And then the last two are my two favorite ones, and you're probably going to understand why if you've seen what kind of families I've liked previously. First off, the Hatfields. The Hatfields are a similar family to the Hicks in that they are kind of rednecky, you live in this dilapidated little house and kind of financially struggle, but in this case it's a mum, dad, with their 3 kids. Dad, Ulysses, works in the military, but his bio says that he actually isn't really made for working. One of their sons, I think this is actually a really little cool meta thing, says that his dad told him that he has to write a bio, but he doesn't want to write a bio. And then the mum kind of comes off as this pageant mum who wanted to be famous herself, but now has this daughter, Elizabeth Elvira, that she tries to put into the spotlight. And then her bio has one of the best lines ever, which is, "The grass may seem greener on the other side of the fence, but I like pink anyway," which, so good. I say now that this family never returns in later installments, but the mother, Ruby Ann, shares a name with Ruby Broke. They kind of look similar, timeline-wise it could work, and they come from similar economical backgrounds. So this could be Ruby Broke from The Sims 3, but it's unconfirmed. And then lastly, the Maximus family. This is honestly one of the only families that contends with the Mashuka family for me for being my favorite family ever. This family is a couple consisting of Princess Zaghawa Maximus and her husband Mawizo Jimmy Maximus, and both of these are real characters. Princess Zaghawa comes from an aristocratic family, clearly comes from money, but she could never find a suitable suitor. And now that she's a famous opera singer, she met Jimmy, and he's finally the man that she falls in love with. And then Jimmy is a crime lord. His bio actually describes him as a male chauvinist pig until he met Princess Zaghawa, who he fell in love with. She's apparently the first person that doesn't bore him to death. However, what really helps their story is their house. It's pretty big, but most notably it's filled with a lot of duplicate objects, which really suggests that they're all stuff that Jimmy has stolen throughout his career. And these are all the families that I wanted to talk to you about today. These downloadable families you cannot find on the Max's website anymore, but I will link a website down below where you can still download them if you want to play with them. I hope that you enjoyed this video. I personally really love diving into the lore of The Sims and all of the characters that it has, because I think especially for the earlier Sims games, one of the things that really had this game rise to the top was the fact that they did this amazing world building that you could immediately immerse yourself in. Thanks again for watching, and I hope to see you on my next video. Bye bye!